Let's go.
Professional Dad's podcast. How's everybody doing tonight?
Man, weird to be back, but good to be back for sure.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. We
We missed a couple of
apologize
weeks
for
and all the things.
being off a little bit, but up and down on things, and a lot of stuff going on this time of year. We got basketball, kids basketball. Not we're not talking about other.
We ain't playing.
We're not talking.
I mean, I still can, but I'm not.
That's right. That's right. But
No weeks.
here we are again. Got a special guest, Dr. Eacher. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Matt.
All right. So we're coming on. We're going to take on a pretty heavy topic that I think that is important. That I think that all of us deal with, and I think we deal with it more than we probably give it ourselves credit for. And so why don't we just have you jump right in, and we'll have you introduce this topic of stress is really what we're talking about. Stress and burnout for dads. And I think it happens to a lot more people than we know.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to have a personal experience that's going to align with what we're talking about tonight. And my background is I have a longevity clinic. The reason I got into it was my own personal health issues. And what I realized pretty early on is you can do a great job with nutrition and exercise and even sleep, but that fourth pillar that gets ignored, especially by dads and men, is stress. And there's one thing I was going to open with. It's we normalize it. We feel like we can ignore it, we can handle it, but the way your mind handles it is very different than how your body handles it. And the physiologic consequences of stress are just as bad as alcohol or smoking or any of these other habits. And if you're not working on that aspect, it not only your physiology does it affect, but your relationships, your family, your kids. It has so much of an overflow on everyone else in your family that I think with a lot of people, where they struggle is figuring out how to deal with it and how it works. But really, it's not that complicated. I think it's not that hard to get on the road to mastering stress. But the first part is you got to understand the consequences of stress and the physiologic consequences. And I think once you understand that, and that should provide some motivation for you to put some effort and time to it. And then just, if you could almost take a step back from who you are and watch how it affects you and how you interact with your family, how you interact with other people, it affects all facets of your life. And I'll just open with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we all deal with it, and we all deal with it in so many different ways. And
Speaking of dealing with stress in different ways, Matt has decided to exit that.
I don't even know what's going on. I mean, I got strong internet supposedly here at this office. What is going on? So, well, let me just open it up to you guys. I mean, before we get back and really jump in, what are some of y'all's things that y'all go through? What are some symptoms that y'all have had, or some stressful times that y'all have had? We've all had job stuff that we've gone through for sure. I know that that's been a big one with me, retiring from the Marine Corps, then starting on with the V-22 Osprey, and then leaving the V-22 Osprey training system, and then getting on and flying air medical. So, there's a lot that goes on. I mean, go back and think, COVID, all of a sudden when COVID hit, for me personally, is COVID hit, you're not flying, no fans in the stands at races. So no need to have a helicopter pilot and have a helicopter. So I was furloughed. And then when I was furloughed, I went over and I was going to go back to flying air medical. And then there's a lot of moving parts there. So I would say, a lot of times that my major stress in life has come from, those times around the job and around money and things like that. If you don't have a job and the money's not coming in. How about some of you guys before we get back over to Jason?
Yeah, I know with me, like you said, the job. I think job is number one. I think in our male culture, we have such a need to be perfect, to not fail, to have all the answers, all the stress that come along with that. And sometimes you just don't know. And it's like, who do you turn to? Like, for so often in my life, I didn't have, you gentlemen, where I can be like, look, I'm just mucking it up over here, and this is where I need some help at. I need for you to lean on me a little bit and just help me process this. So job is huge, but beyond that, like having kids is super stressful. Super stressful. And so, like, again, when you leave the hospital, they don't send you home with a roadmap or here's what to do on day 30th or here's what to do on year 5, or better yet, here's what to do on year 18. You just got to figure it all out. And a lot of times I think we may not have come from a situation. I think the days of the white picket fence and Aunt B staying at home baking the apple pies and all of that are kind of over for our culture, or at least not very prevalent, shall I say, in a lot of circles, just because we have to be able to provide. So we need that 2-income family, and I think we think about things a little bit different. So for me, kids have been a huge stress point. And then I've shared before, the way that I was raised versus the way that my better half was raised are not quite similar. And so our thought processes tend to be vastly different in a lot of situations. And so, like, just making sure that, hey, I may having this understanding where you can be like, hey, I may mess this up, but let's have a conversation about it. Like, let's not argue about it, but let's just have a conversation and figure out where that middle line is going to be and how we can coexist through this situation.
Yeah, I will agree with you, Devon, talking on the raising children front just tonight. And I was going to hold on for this until you brought it up, because I was like, I don't want to come off as trivial because it's stressful. But I was getting the guys ready to go to bed, and Ethan decides to drop the bomb, say, Dad, I lost my Chromebook today at school. Like, what the fuss? What do you mean? What do you mean you lost your Chromebook? Well, better yet, why do you wait till I put you to bed? We can't have this conversation the way I need to have it. I'm about to get on this podcast. But no, it's just little things. But you're like, what are you thinking? And then I had to sit down and honestly be like, it's a Chromebook, man. I mean, really? Like, seriously? Come on now, don't lose it. Because I sent him to bed like, but I was like, he's 11. I mean, the boy is still figuring it out. I called Aaron because I couldn't deal with it. I said, hey, I'm gonna need you to reach out to the principal and the teachers and say, hey, my boy lost his maybe he misplaced it. If you found it, please let us know. So it was kind of like in the moment, it's like, I'm gonna pass the rock over to Aaron, let her deal with it. Because if I do it, I'm gonna already think of like irresponsible. I'm gonna have to beat your butt. Like, and then it's like, what's the big deal? So I kind of self-medicated, got Aaron involved, and then just left it alone because I was ready to get on here. But aside from that, I concur with what Matt, you, and Devon mentioned about the job. Obviously transitioning, you're looking at providing, and then that kind of alters somewhat, and then trying to figure out, okay, how we're going to make ends meet and whatnot. And you realize you just make some adjustments and keep grinding, and you learn to pivot. But I'm really interested in kind of peeling back some of the layers of this particular topic, because I know I recognize times when I don't communicate effectively when I think I feel pressure about situations, circumstances, and this will be good to kind of talk through. So, Jason, I'm glad you're back with us.
Yeah. Josh, you got anything to add real quick?
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys hit it. I think we strive to be perfect. We're provider mode. We're, whether it's dad or husband or finances or job, I think that's a lot of pressure. And I think it's pressure as it is. And then we add this other layer on top of wanting to be perfect or wanting everything to go right. And I think ego's there. I think embarrassment's there. I think with Eric, like, I'm with you. I'm like, oh my gosh, the school's going to think that you're irresponsible, and then it comes back on me, and then it's your mom, and then it's like you're like, all right, it's a Chromebook. So I get some of that, and it's like ball, or and I've done it too with Hudson. I'm like, bro, why are you being this? Like, that's gonna look bad on me. When yes, that's important, but if you take it as a learning lesson, like you did, because I think we put that so much pressure on ourselves, and then it's unnecessary. that worry and that extra layer. And you're talking about peeling back the onion to this. I think we're just like, all right, this is life's stressful enough. Doesn't matter what it is, what it's stressful enough. And then we're like, oh, well, it's not perfect. So let me add this on it and this on it. And I think that's what Jason, you're talking about. Like it just compounds. It's just like a snowball. And yeah, it'll be interesting to talk through some of these things, because I was going through them today and I'm like, whew, man, I do this and I do that. Or, hey, 2 years ago I did this, or 5 years ago I did this. It doesn't affect me that way now. So it's gonna be cool. I'm looking forward to it. Tough one, but good one.
Hey, Matt, can I jump in? I just want to piggyback off of what Eric was saying, because I think he gave a great example, because I want to explain the physiology of how we react to stressful situations and things like anxiety, because I think it's helpful to understand the basic neural pathways, because it makes a big difference in understanding what's the best way to mitigate it. And what you heard from Eric's example is he had this initial emotional reaction, and then he was able to calm himself and process it in a different way. And I think that shows a few things. One is that, he's got this mechanism to manage the emotional side, and he's got resilience to keep himself calm. But if you just back up to the original reaction, so that when we are exposed to stimuli, we process it in two parallel ways. There's one called the prefrontal cortex, which is essentially like our logic center. It's where you process information, you make logical decisions, they make sense, you're drawing on all the parts of your brain. But a little bit quicker is something called the limbic system, or the amygdala. So if you've ever heard of, there's a term called amygdala hijack, and it's really evolutionarily, it's supposed to detect change. And when we detect more change than we're used to, it signals alarm and it activates the sympathetic nervous system. It's like the fight or flight. So like, if you imagine many, many years ago, something popped out, it would activate that, make you emotional, you'd fight or flight. And so what happens nowadays is the same pathways get reacted. And when we're stressed out, when we've had a tough day, when we've had a bunch of these experiences, what happens is that amygdala hijack gets hyperactivated. It gets more likely to activate in situations where it shouldn't be activated. So you think about, you have a really stressful day at work, and you come home and your kid does something innocuous, maybe not, losing a Chromebook, right? But something totally innocuous, and you find yourself snapping at the kid. And then an hour later, you're sitting there thinking, why did I do that? It's because you carried all of that emotion from work. And I'll just finish off by saying, that there's a window of opportunity where you have that amygdala hijack and you activate the emotional center. You have this window of opportunity to jump in and calm yourself and be able to process it through the prefrontal cortex instead, which is the example Eric was giving, that he recognized that he shouldn't get upset. And that's where a lot of the really good interventions are. So you talk about something as simple as breath work. The key is mind-body connection. As soon as you can connect the mind and body, that helps you break that pathway, and then you get back to the prefrontal cortex where you can logic through that problem. And it was just such a perfect example to build off of, to explain what actually happens physiologically.
Yeah. So one of the things to talk about that I want to know, and we have some ladies watching, how do men and women, what's the difference? How do we handle the stress different? Do we handle stress different? Is it the same process?
I think we do. And I think there is data to support that. There's a lot of stressors in physiology we manifest differently as a result of stress. I think men tend to internalize stress, and they become quiet. They become, they'll say things like, I'm fine. You ask how men, it's like such a charged response. You hear, someone's stressed out, and you ask them how they're doing. They say they're fine. They're not fine. They say they're tired. So that's one big pathway for men to manifest stress, is they kind of shut down, which is the opposite of what you would expect when someone's stressed out. But, there's a lot of stigma with men and stress, and admitting stress is that it's kind of like admitting failure. The other thing interesting that can happen with men when they're particularly stressed out is they get embedded in work. They become very productive. I mean, it's basically a way to shut yourself away from the stress where you're not thinking about it, and you become, you become the workaholic, and The problem with that is we hear these stories all the time. You got the dad who's working his butt off. He's got so many responsibilities. He comes home and then he can't be there for the kids. He can't be there for the family. He's physically present, but he's not emotionally present. And that's detrimental. So I think, to me, from what I've seen and what I've read, those are the two main manifestations for men who are under a lot of stress.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when I was in the military, I had this, and a lot of military men and women have this skill, and maybe you've seen it in medicine, Jason, and maybe y'all have seen it in y'all's career. But I had this skill, and a lot of military men have the skill. Like, what in the world? Like, I could turn it off. I could walk out of the house. I could be having a knockdown drag out with Tisha, and we lived in base housing, and it was about a mile to get to my squadron. And by the time I got into my car, from the time I started the car, from the time I got to the squadron, I would just go boom, and I just parked it, and it's gone, because I'm going in to do a job, fly helicopters and do a high risk job. I don't have time to think about that. So I could just take it and bury it, but it doesn't go away. It's still there and all that, but it's taken and it's hidden for a period of time, and maybe I hope it goes away, but it ain't going away.
Go away till you walk back in that house again.
Right. You better turn it back on when you get out of the car.
We ain't true, man.
Yeah.
Right.
That, people manifest that stress differently. People handle stress differently. Some people are more high stress, some people are lower stress, but that anxiety and that stress, man, it can build up and take you over time.
Yeah. I used to get just overwhelmed, like the worry, the overwhelm, the hot, the sweat, the whatever. But you're right, Jason. Like, if I'm stressed, my house is clean, I got no emails, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do now? But you're right. Like, we get into this mode, whatever it is. You got a garage, you're going to go clean the garage. You're going to go work on the car. You're going to go to the gym. Like, there's something that we do as men that helps. And I think the more we go through it, it's obviously supposed to get better. Obviously, you don't need to clean the house in that manner or work that hard or get quiet. I'm one that just gets quiet. Like, I'm good. Like that. It's like that thumbs up on a text. Like, I hate that. Like, I'm fine, I'm good, thumbs up type of thing. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just like, for me, it's the worry. It's the worry that it's the what if, and Matt talks about it all the time. Like, you living in that what if, and then it just compounds, and then it's stress, and then it's not good. It's just not good. But women don't. I don't know that women do. Some women do. So I don't know if it's not a flex that we get quiet and they don't, or whatever. But I mean, some women do are able to turn that and internalize that. But obviously, that's male. That's very male dominated in what we do, for sure. Matt just doesn't want to be here tonight. But I think, and another thing too, I think that we were, on the notes and stuff that we were taking is I think men turn to stuff, right? Like drugs, alcohol, porn, workaholic, like any of those things that take our mind away from, like Matt said, you turn it off. We're just taking it off there to numb it, or to a quick fix or whatever, instead of dealing with the issue itself is one thing, but dealing with ourselves and how we bring ourselves back to balance. I think men do that more. Are we right on that we tend to go that route?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially, we got the phones now too. That's a big output. A lot of scrolling at night, video games. Yeah. Like that was my thing for a long time, is the stress would hit and it'd just be video games all night long. And, it felt good, but it's not a way of managing the stress. Like Matt was saying, it's still there. And if you don't manage it, if you don't reconcile it, it's just going to keep coming. It's like that pathway is still there. It's going to keep going until you find a way to really extinguish it.
Right.
Yeah. Did you see, again, I think we talked about this in the last time, is that you kind of recognized at some point when you were starting the clinic and things that were going on. you recognize that, hey, I got to make a change. I got to make a change, and that has a lot to do with what your functional medicine clinic is about, right? Is to help others and make that jump, to make lifestyle change, make all the different things. I think this is some of the stuff Eric wants to talk about too. Is like, how do you advise people to get to the next level, basically, and to go, change their lifestyle. Really, is what it is to control the stress.
Yeah, I think it's a couple of steps. One is the rationale, the data is how it's affecting them. And we can do a great job optimizing their hormones. They're not going to feel the benefit if they have the stress. They're not going to sleep. Often the stress and the sleep are combined. And in a sense, diet and exercise are pretty easy, and that's usually what I have people start on. And then once they've ironed that out, it's really a process. So my intake form's got a lot of questions to understand, what's their stress level, what's their major stressor, do they have tools to mitigate the stress. I spend a lot of time talking about the things we just talked about, what cortisol does, persistently elevated cortisol, different patterns, how it can manifest, how it affects their symptoms. There's a big symptom inventory. And I try and point out these are the things that stress is going to affect for you, and you're not going to have improvement unless we deal with those. And then explain how it works, and then start giving them tools. And just going back to the concept of the mind-body connection, that drives a lot of the tools. I actually put together a workbook, and I'd be happy to, I worked on this for years, just because you can go to specialists for everything except for stress. You can find a dietitian and nutritionist for food. You can find trainers and physical therapists for working out. You can go to sleep. There's a lot of sleep experts out there, but there's really no one who can help you with the stress. And I still, having done this for a while, believe that we ourselves are best positioned to help ourselves with stress. We just need the tools. We understand who we are. We understand what the stressors are. We can analyze it. We're going to benefit the most from it. And so I make that point with the patients, and everyone wants less stress. I think the biggest barrier is time. And that's always the barrier for whatever it is you're talking about with the lifestyle, because a lot of people don't see the immediate benefit. When you start dealing with stress and sleep and even diet and exercise, it's a month to year timeline before you see benefits. So trying to get them to understand what the timeline is, what the potential benefits are, give them all the tools, and really encourage them to start working and take little steps over time. And the patients who know they have a problem, they respond well to that. It's just teaching them what they need to know, because once they know that, then they start to see themselves in their environment. Like when you start to see yourself snap at your kid, you see yourself say something to your wife, you see yourself at work have an unpleasant, like we've all done it. And half an hour later, we're like, why did I send that email? Why did I say what I said? We're all smart enough to figure that out. And it's really just giving people the tools and understanding to know how to manage it themselves.
Look at Eric. Eric's like,
yeah. You got Eric.
You done thought about 5 stories right there.
Yeah. He was like, oh, what? Yep.
Nah, Josh was looking at me because about that text I sent last Tuesday. That's how he's tipping me off, like, yeah, you regret sending that email or text.
Oh no, the one to us? No, heck no. But I think you're right. And it's just that like we're impulsive. Like when you get stressed out, it's like, I need to fix this now. And you just rattle something off, a text, an email, a phone call, snapping, whatever. And you're like, man, it wasn't even like you did with the Chromebook. It's a Chromebook. Like, if we got to buy another one, we'll buy another one. It's probably at school. It's probably in his book bag. Like, he's 11. So, like, right. But I think here's the thing. Maybe, I don't know. He's like, well, Dad, oh, shoot, I forgot this because I need to plug it in. Like, we don't know what they're thinking. We hope we can understand. But I'm with you. Like, just snapping, that's a,
but
done that, Eric.
The thing about it, though, even talking through this and listening to Jason speak, the thing that comes back on me is, yes, I want to be able to, just like us on this call and folks listening, to be able to find practical ways to manage it. But the reality is that I sent that boy upstairs, and the last thing that he heard before he went to bed was, "Why are you so irresponsible?"
Yeah.
So he's sleeping now, thinking that's what my dad said about the situation. Where talking through this, I'm saying to you all, just as intelligently as possible, it's just a Chromebook. He's only 11, but what he heard was, "Dang, dude, why are you so irresponsible?" So I got to work that thing out, because that's more important than any stress that I'd ever feel or any type way to manage or whatnot. It's just the communication. You can't have but so many swing and misses with your children as you're trying to work through things that you may be working through, whether they're work induced, whether they're spousal, whatever the case may be. When you have a chance to utter some word to your child, it better be sweet, and so I swung and missed,
What? Hold on. I'm gonna say, but did you?
But did you? I was gonna say, but
I'm gonna
did
play
you?
devil's advocate on that because I think sometimes we want to back off and be too nice, but there is responsibility. Maybe you could have said, how can we be more responsible, or maybe you could have asked it different or said it different. But there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's one of the things I think we really swing and missed with today in parenting is that we don't want to put the burden on our kids, and sometimes you have to, we all turned out all right, right? But sometimes there's a way to talk to them, a way to say it, but there's also, you got to hold them accountable, and
Not necessarily what you say, it's how you say it. It's tone. It's tone, it's presentation. So I was gonna say just what Matt said, like, but did you? Like, y'all know what would have happened if we lost our Chromebook at 11.
We up at the schoolhouse right now looking.
Right.
with a flashlight.
Right. I wouldn't be asleep right now. My butt would be hurting, and I'd probably be standing trying to sleep and be scared he will come back in there. But it's a different time. So I think Matt's right. We've got to hold them responsible, but we also have to let them know, hey, I'm disappointed. Hey, we got to do better at this, whatever. We don't have to, as Devo and I have done, is, that horse is all the way in the ground and we're still just a swinging, but you have to hold them accountable too.
Yeah. Let me make a plug too. I think there's another tool here that I love. This is my favorite one, is journaling. And if you've never done journaling, like, to me, that's a perfect opportunity, what you just said, because you have this experience and you've identified it, that this is not how you want to be, not optimal. And journaling is such a great opportunity to let the emotional part extinguish and then rely on the prefrontal cortex and kind of map out, okay, what was the stressor? How did you react? How did you feel inside? Because we all have these stress signatures. We all, like, when you start to get upset, you feel something first. The very first thing that happens is you feel something. Heart rate starts going up, your jaws clench, you sense something internally, and that's like your trigger to do something different. So you figure out what's your stress signature, what happens with you, what are other ways you could have handled it, what would you, if it happens again, what are you going to say this time? And you're so much better prepared the next time it comes along. Like, journaling is great for mapping out this whole process anytime a stressful event happens and figuring out how you're going to handle it differently. And to me, that's, of all the tools out there, that's my favorite one.
I heard that. I mean, mine, I find comedy in everything. So even if I journaled, I would be like, why in the freak was I mad about this Chromebook? It's not like it was my phone that had all my passwords in it and had all my bank information. These school Chromebooks don't even let you put a thumb drive in it because they have so many firewalls and all that stuff. So, I mean, just doing it, talking through it, it's not a big deal. And I shouldn't have treated it as such because, like I said, those books don't have really any data in it that you could, take and say, hey, I know where you live now, whatever. And so I could have lowered my tone a little bit on that one, but it was still funny in the moment because I don't curse, but maybe once or twice a week. And I was like, mother, in my mind, that's what I was saying. Like, really, dude, you lost because I was looking at it as liken it to me losing my phone and all of the stuff on my phone. You lose a computer that the school issued and all the stuff that's on there. But as we're talking through it, they really don't put anything on those school.
Well, think about it this way, and maybe, and I don't know your son, but he probably strategically waited till you went to bed because he knows how you're going to react. So he was probably scared and stressed and running through
Played
it all. Like my dad, hold on, he's got to go to bed. He's got to go to the podcast. I got to go to bed, and mom ain't here. Let me wait till Dad. Can you tuck me in my Chromebook? Like, just he's ready. He knows. So
Josh, you're so right, man. And
the
the thing that messes me up right now, y'all gonna start something. Is I got home and I said, you know what, your mom's working late tonight, so let me take y'all to McDonald's because I don't feel like cooking. So I'm gonna take y'all out to eat. They get all the benefits of a meal.
If you were cooking dinner, he'd have told you before dinner. But you said McDonald's, he didn't want to miss out on that. Get it?
I said, this ninja that went and got McDonald's, got to come home and lavish and living it up. Oh, Dad, by the way.
Yeah, by the way, that's funny.
Hey, I forgot after I got out of school 6.5 hours ago that.
Yeah. And I didn't need that for my homework or anything that I needed to do.
I tell you, I'm laughing inside right now because again, Aaron and I, we say oftentimes that children don't have a say in whose family they're born into. They don't have a say. You're just there, and you got to make the best of it. But somewhere out there, whether it's in these United States or across the world, this same situation probably would have got a kid beat down or worse. And so when you think about it, you're like, I'm thankful that even though we can laugh about it, obviously it was cleared in my mind in 5 minutes or less. But this is the reality of somebody in another home. That kid probably would have gotten beat down or worse or whatnot. And that's what's sad about it, is that we don't take the time to say it's going to be okay. We'll figure it out. Get in touch with the teacher. Call the principal. We'll see what happens. Like I told him, I said, look, I'm not paying for this. I'm gonna take it out of your account. So if I have to pay for this, you're gonna pay me back. And we could have ended it that way. So I recognize that even through some of the comments I made and the way I felt, that it could have been worse in another situation. And I understand that. So whether that's to give myself credit or just to be a reality that some children have it worse in situations that they're in, and I recognize that.
Yeah. Jason, let's talk a little bit about sleep and how that affects you, your stress and your anxiety and your body, just overall body. For me, I consider myself a sleeping professional. I am good at sleeping. I can go to sleep in 5 minutes. The only time it ever affects me, though, is during the middle of the night. If I get up, go to the bathroom, and I got something on my mind, or I got something that's pressing, and I literally can walk to the bathroom, and by the time I walk back, my mind is just freaking going 1,000 miles an hour. And I've had to find ways, that I can relax myself back and go back to sleep. So what do you think about that? Talk a little bit about the how sleep can affect your stress levels and all those levels that you deal with.
Well, it's like the chicken and the egg, it's stress affects sleep. Mm-hmm. And you can actually correlate different patterns. People who have very high daytime stress because the cortisol gets elevated in the afternoon and evening, they're the ones who tend to wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and have difficulty going back to sleep. When you look at these hormones, there's receptors to cortisol everywhere, all throughout the brain, all throughout the body. And if you're not doing things, I like to tell people you got to structure your day the right way. The two most important times of the day when you're thinking about stress and sleep, I think, is morning and evening, beginning of the day and end of the day. I used to check my work email first thing in the morning, and then I was just pissed off all day. And so my morning's very different now. My morning is I do 5 minutes of breath work. I do journaling. I get my little sunlight device, and my first 30 minutes is just relaxing. I do prayer journal entries, and it just changes the tone of the day. Yeah. It gives you resilience. It makes you better able to handle the situation. And then that last 30 to 60 minutes of the night, especially for sleep, because when you have things on your mind and you're stressed out, that cortisol level is high going into the bedtime hours, and that's when you're more likely to wake up and not be able to go back to sleep. And then when you wake up in the middle of the night, that's where I think, just going back to the mind-body connection, I think that the best interventions are going to be ones that you connect the mind and body. So what I started doing is breath work. And there's so many different exercises. The key with breath work is you don't, as you're doing the breathing exercise, you don't want to be thinking about the things that's stressing you out. But to me, that's what I used to have the same problem. I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'd be thinking about all the things I had to do the next day or something that happened during the day that stressed me out. And it's the breath work that kind of breaks that emotional cycle and gets me back to bed. But, when you're not, I have a good number of patients, when you're not sleeping well, that in and of itself creates stress because you start thinking, oh, I'm going to have another rough night, right? So they kind of feed on each other. And it's a tough cycle to break.
Yeah. A technique that my physical therapist that I was seeing earlier today told me, she said, some people talk about doing math. So do math problems, she said, but what I do is I think of a word and whatever that, let's say it's word, then I have to come up with another word that starts with W. And then a word that starts with O, then a word that starts with R, and then a word that starts with D, and then whatever that word is, last word, then I start it over. And she said, and that's a technique that that a lot of therapists are teaching to calm you back down. For me, it's really crazy, but like what I've started doing, I've been doing this for a while, but like I'll play my phone, and I don't know if I'll do this, but I'll play my phone and I'll play like YouTube video all night long, and my phone's face down, but it's scripture the whole night through, from start to finish, plays it all night. And if I wake up and I go to the bathroom, do whatever, I'll just start listening to that scripture, and I just go, I'm right back to sleep. I don't have any problem sleeping, but it's literally it's different scriptures playing all night, different stories, and I've been doing that for a long, long time.
That would stress me out. But like, listen, I'm gonna have to wake up at 4 tomorrow so I can get to 1 John. Like, I'll be like, I can't wake up at 3 no more. Like, I'm tired of that book.
I love what Jason was saying about journaling and breathing techniques, and then just in the word, the way that he's doing that. Because I think a couple of podcasts ago, at church, our pastor had encouraged the men to download the Joseph Prince app. And, having done that for quite a while now, my morning, 6 o'clock, starting up with Joseph Prince and getting that grace. And then at 10 o'clock now, he's got now his evening word. And so at 10 o'clock, I just, separate that time where I could be on Facebook, I could be on my email, I could be on, but I choose to finish my night with Joseph Prince and just hear about grace and whatnot. And that literally spiritually rocks me to sleep. So very much like you, Matt, with the scriptures, it's just something to just take, because it's so easy to let the phone be the last thing that you have in your hand, or some email, or crisis that might be going on in the world that you get consumed with. And so for replacing it has been so helpful, because even when I wake up in the middle of the night, I don't necessarily get out of bed. I don't necessarily go use the restroom when I'm waking up in the middle of the night. But I find myself saying, I'm the righteousness of God in Christ. I'm the righteousness of God in Christ, or whatever I'm thinking. It's something that has to do with something that the Joseph Prince app or message of that day or night had reminded me of. And can't explain it, but it's like calm.
I think I agree. Right, it just calms you down. It calms me down. Gets me calm. I think that's good. Yeah. You're muted, Josh.
I'd say Matt knows what I do, and Jason's going to cringe, but like I will wake up, like I'm like 3 to 4 hours a night until probably, I don't know, a month ago or so. But like I'll just get up and I just start like cleaning or working. And I'll do like a 20-hour day, and then I'll get up and do it all over again. But I'll bring the comedic relief to this. But do y'all ever, since we're men, and I know people are watching, but like, do you feel like if you keep your eyes closed, walk into the bathroom, you're still sleeping? So if you grab your phone, it lights up, or if you turn the light on, that it's going to wake you up. So you keep your eyes closed, like all the way there. Is that just
no, I know.
That's just you, man. I ain't stubbing my toe.
You lie.
I'm not stubbing my toe for nothing.
I keep it dark. It's got to stay dark.
It's got to stay dark.
I feel
Yeah.
like if I turn the bathroom light on, like I'm like, oh well, shoot, I gotta get up, and it could be like 1:47 in the morning. But if I keep my eyes closed, find the toilet, and go to the bathroom, I'm like, well, shoot, I'm asleep. I can go right back to bed. It doesn't
No.
always work that way, but I have to keep my eyes closed.
But I find myself even doing the same thing that Jason's talking about. I find myself like just trying to do what you do, Josh. I'll keep my eyes closed a lot of times. And then I also find myself just breathing, like keeping my breath like regulated and trying to stay as calm as I can and all that, and not let myself get worked up, get back in the bed, stay breathing.
Look at Devo's face. Devo's like, y'all stupid, man.
Yeah.
I
Dude, what y'all talking about?
Well, I used to try that strategy until I started getting in trouble because my aim was slightly off.
I was going to say, I've had to take all my doors off the hinges because I ran into those.
Yeah. You wake up and it's a spun and some Ajax next to the bed.
I ain't got to worry about that. Y'all
too much. I get it.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but that makes the cortisol high. Obviously the phone, they want like screen time down before you go to sleep, so you're not, brain's not all over the place. Cortisol up when you're going to bed. Pull the screen time off. All that.
If you look at some of the research out there about these phones, they work a lot like slot machines, and it's not just the cortisol, it's the dopamine, and this idea that when there's a break in time, and you say let me check my phone, there's a dopamine hit, and you get excited about what am I going to find on the phone, and then sometimes that gets reinforced with something interesting, something good, something new. Or not, but the fact is now it's like Pavlovian. You get trained to get the dopamine hit off of checking the phone. And I remember I found myself driving, and every time I hit a stop sign or you got a boring part of the road, I'd start checking my phone. It's like, it's such a dangerous behavior. So I ended up taking everything off the phone. I got no social media, no news, no email, nothing, because I just, I've been doing that for a few months now. But after looking at the data on what the phones do to your brain, and I look at, I gave my kids phones early, and the attention span, like they don't read books. It's hard having a conversation with them for more than a few minutes before they get bored. There's a consequence to these phones and the way they work and the way they're designed. And if you ever get some time, there's a great documentary on Netflix called The Social Dilemma, where they interview. Yep. You guys have seen it? Oh, if you have, if anyone out there hasn't seen it, please watch it.
Check it out.
Yeah, make sure you check that out, Eric. Yep, it's
Eric's gonna be like, you ain't never come home with a Chromebook. You ain't getting a phone. Like, they're done. He's gonna be the hero for losing that Chromebook, Eric.
So I was talking to my wife the other day, and I mentioned on here before, she works in the pediatric ED at the hospital. 24-bed unit. The other day, 16 of the 24 beds they call them psych, right? And so we were talking about it. And I'm like, okay, what's the problem? What's going on? And she's talking about, just how they argue, like the patients try to argue. It's the craziest thing that's going on there. But I said, well, do you think it's social media and the phones? And she's like, 100%. She's like, that's what's causing of these young kids. We're talking about 10, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old kids that are coming in there, and they're patients, they're psych patients, and they're going through emotional problems, all kind of stress problems, all kind of, you name it, and it's the phones. It's the phones that are doing this. It's a big problem. We have a big problem.
Huge. Yeah. Like when I was in the schoolhouse, we saw it all the time. Like, those phones age you so quick, and it's so like not developmentally appropriate. Like, kids are they're being exposed to more things than they can even handle. Like, our parents I remember, like, my dad came in my room one night, and I was sitting there listening to NWEA on NWEA, is that right? I don't know. Easy E.
NWA.
NWA.
Yeah, I am taking a test.
You better take a test.
It's not that type of stuff.
Not testing. No.
Yeah, Easy E.
Number 2 pencil.
and he found those records, and I remember he busted them right there in front of my face, and I was just like mortified. And like I said, if I could ever go back, like I would never give my child a cell phone again
True.
until they got at least halfway done with high school. Like we're having this struggle now. My middle schooler, like she writes out this formula of why she should have a phone, and she tries to present it to my wife at least once a month, and thank goodness we're staying strong. And it's just like, no, we just don't need that. Like that will age your child so much quicker. They get exposed. Kids in the classroom teaching them how to work around so that they can download apps that's just not even right for me. And so what I try to do, and I suck at it, but what I try to do is stay off of my phone as much as I possibly can. And so like those phones are so addicting. And I look at my wife and myself and how addicted we are. Like you stand in line at the grocery store, you pull out your phone and you start scrolling. Yeah. Or now we don't even have conversations with each other. We just send each other the top 5 reels that we viewed today, right? And it's just like here's the father. The conversation of the day is looking at these videos. You see that? Why am I getting so many fart videos or whatever? Like that's all you searching, and that's all you sending to people. Like those phones are severely dangerous, and put them in the hands of your child, like that's where we should have an age limit on those phones. I truly believe it, man. And parents,
you got adults that can't deal with that. You got adults. Sorry, Eric. You got adults that can't deal with social media or phone, like smart dumb phones or dumb smart people, whatever you want to call it. Like, but you give it to a 10, 11, and I'm with Jason. Like my kid's mom, they had one early, like Christmas of 3rd grade, both of them. And now it's like, probably not a good move now. And I know Matt's going to play the devil's advocate on this one. And I love the analogy that Matt does is if you shelter them too much, they're missing out. But if you give them something too early, it goes downhill. So, I mean, there's got to be a healthy balance. And Eric Devo said at the beginning, when we go home, there's no roadmap. There's no roadmap for being a dad. There's no roadmap for being a mom. You can live and learn based on what we've done and people have done and how we were raised, but every kid's different. So it's just wild.
Well, and I think a lot of times is we're neglecting our parental duties. Is we're giving them these phones because we don't want to go outside and throw the ball with them, or we don't want to walk around the neighborhood or play kickball with them or talk to them about their day. Or whatever the situation is, we give them these phones to entertain them so that we don't have to deal with them. Like that's the way that it's being used a lot in society today. Not all, but a lot.
And that thing that Eric was just saying, I'm sure Jason or Debo was just saying, that's all stress. That's all stress relievers. Going for a walk, going to the gym, getting outside, throwing ball with your kids. All those things could eliminate some of that stress. And then obviously the most important thing of all that is get time with your kid.
Right. Absolutely. Let's talk about, to shift gears, Jason, let's talk about like alcohol, how people use alcohol. Or
I got to go.
How people use alcohol or other things, stress management, from what you've seen and all that in your practice.
Yeah, I think, it's an escape. Like you feel stressed, you feel upset, you feel unpleasant in some way, and alcohol just makes you happy. It relieves the stress, and it's like many addictive drugs. It works against you over time, because once you become dependent on it, that's the problem. Is, let's say the stress is short term, and you're using the alcohol to help manage it because you don't have any other good outlets or any other good tools. Once the stressor is gone and you try to stop drinking the alcohol, the next day, and it wears off, you start to have that anxiety again. And you start to, then you start to need it to feel normal. And that whole vicious cycle starts up. And people don't really, when you're drinking regularly, I don't think people understand what normal feels like, because if you haven't taken off a drink for 2, 3, 4 weeks, like that's still in your, it has consequences in the way your brain works, in your decision making, in your mood. It affects all kinds of aspects of how your brain works. So, you know, what I tell patients is, if you are really interested in quitting and you want a good motivator, you know, stop for 2 to 4 weeks and see how you feel. And that is powerful for a lot of patients, because after 2 to 4 weeks, they come back and say, you know, I didn't realize how much of an impact the liquor had on my mood, had on my relationship, had on all these other things. And that's the hard part, is just getting that 2 to 4 weeks out there. But, you know, it's like, alcohol and food. I think when you look at the obesity epidemic and how people are eating, what drives a lot of it is stress. And it's so easy to get something good to eat. And it works exactly the same way. It makes you feel good. It's easy. And it solves a problem. And then before you know it, now you got to have that same snack at night. You got to, you know, you're stuck in that snacking pattern. And that's when you start to have the unhealthy habits. You have the nutritional issues. You're not exercising anymore. It all feeds on itself.
What are you thinking, Eric?
No, hey,
So I took the boys to McDonald's, and
no, it's true. It is true.
Yeah.
but that's
those
easy.
late night patterns, and it's easy to even come up with an excuse to be able to say, well,
Sure.
I mean, it's just popcorn. At least it's not chocolate, but it's popcorn. But it's like, well, do I need to be eating popcorn at 11 o'clock at night? You know, especially somebody who just came off of a digestion situation, to think, oh, my stomach's bulletproof now, I can do what I want to. But it's still something behind that, wanting to have when I really don't need to. If I just go to bed, then I'll be fine. Just go to bed. You ain't gotta eat, you know. I think about it on Tuesdays, just real talk. I'll be honest with you. On Tuesdays after the podcast, I use that time to catch up with food I didn't eat before 6 or 7, because I waited until after 9 to grab either a meal.
Like it missed you.
Like it missed me.
Like
Like
it
I was
missed
like, well, I was ready for this, and now I'm done. So that 9 or 10 o'clock to 11, it's like, what am I doing? Why am I eating that late? I don't do it any other day of the week. Why am I doing it? So it's a habit. I'm not going to do it tonight, because I promise you I won't eat tonight. But I typically will grab something to eat 10 to 11, 11:30.
You had McDonald's earlier. We know you're not.
Don't feel bad. Me and Tish had Taco Bell, so don't worry about it.
But I think what Jason's saying on the, like, it's expensive to eat healthy. You can do it, but it's so easy to eat unhealthy, and it's cheaper. Not that anything is cheap these days, but it's so easy to go get a burger or something, whatever, and just pick it up and come on, than it is to come home and make a salad, or even go get a salad, or, you know, whatever it is. It's so much easier to eat unhealthy, and they like it like that.
And when you got kids, like, they don't want to eat. There's no rationale for them to eat healthy. And so it's like, that's what I find is like, I do pretty good with myself, but the stressor and the constant fight is getting them to eat healthy. And, you know, I try and make these rules, like, you know, you get to order out on the weekend once, and it's a constant battle, because that's, you know, they want the fast food, they want the good stuff, and they don't really see the rationale for doing it. So it's stressful.
True.
I saw something the other day that said the man that, or the person that put the S in fast food was a marketing genius.
Yeah. So I've got a question here, and it's on our list. It's like, what's everybody's personal signature? Like, how do you stress? What's your stress? Do you short fuse? You shut down? Overeat? Overwork? Like, what do you do? What is your stress? What's your thing? Anyone?
I shut down.
You shut down?
I shut down and get quiet, for sure. That's my thing.
Yeah, I think so.
I say I'm tired a lot. It's the variation of I'm fine is I'm tired, and I just say it constantly, and definitely short-tempered. Like, the kids will do something, leave something out, something won't get washed, and I can feel like I'm more aware now. So I feel that rush of anger, but at least now I have that awareness to say, okay, no, this is your typical stress signature. You need to give it a second, do a little breath work. And the other thing I do, especially at work, is I micromanage. So I've got a wonderful practice manager, and I can, as soon as I'm standing in the hallway telling her what to do and how to do her job, I'm like, okay, you know what? I know what my problem is. And she's like, yeah, you need to go back in your office and relax. So those, I've figured out those are my stress signatures.
Yeah.
Diva.
Oh, you want me to answer this? I was
Devo's like, I thought I ended this thing when we was talking about alcohol. Like, I'm
Yeah.
still here.
So that probably is my trigger, is to fix a drink. You know, we're laughing about how cheap it is to do stuff that's unhealthy. I used to, like 2014, when I had my bypass surgery, I used to tell my wife, well, I can go buy me a single beer cheaper than I could buy me a 16-ounce bottle of water. And so I used that as a crutch a lot. And ever since I quit working in that stressful arena which I was in, it has changed tremendously. Doc, you talked a lot about just being aware. And I think, unfortunately, that comes with age or maybe intelligence level as well. But now I'm more aware, and I will snap, but I will soon catch myself and I'll apologize. And like, that's where I feel like a lot of time I think about my kids and I think about some of the decisions that I made where I would just snap at them and be like, you know, if you don't change your ways, you're going to be like somebody else or something else or somewhat this other situation. And that has such a very long lasting effect, where it's created hard spots in our relationship, even to this day. So again, just trying to make sure you be more healthy. I think now I learned to say I'm sorry a lot more, because I'm still me, right? I can't be anybody else, so I'm still me, and I still snap. But I will come back real quick and be like, you know what? I apologize. I was wrong. This is what I was thinking. Because I think also a lot of times as guys, we don't look at things from another person's vantage point. We just see things with straight vision focus, and it's just what we have in our preview right at that particular moment. So those are a couple of strategies that I try to engage in now. It's just saying I'm sorry, I screwed that up. Let me try to fix it.
I want to emphasize that because you're modeling how to handle those situations with your kids, and that's such a great example of like the apology idea. It's just because they're so impressionable, and you're teaching them that really important aspect. That's wonderful to hear.
Yeah,
for sure.
Eric?
I get quiet. Yeah, I get quiet. Start thinking. I try to like get from A to Z in my mind before I say something. You know, whether it's to Aaron or in work situations, I just get quiet. Not often, but I do. Not often. But you know what? I'm telling on myself, but I've been consistent from the day from day one, and I have been like, I'm waiting for the day that you guys kick me off the podcast. But I talk about my faith so much now that has been the stress relief for my life. Is just being in constant harmony with Jesus, and just really like I don't want to talk about her situation, but Erin's going through some stuff right now. And I find myself being a rock for her by saying, now remember, you don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities. This person's not your enemy. It's the devil. He's your enemy. He hates you, you know, and it's those little things that are, you know, kind of almost seem like goody two shoes, but it's not. It's like I'm anchored, and I recognize that. And so things that used to like take me over the edge don't take me over the edge anymore, because of the approach that I have. And I recognize that I can't do anything without the Lord. Anything. I consult him for everything. It sounds crazy, but for everything. Decisions, no matter how big or small. I told you guys a month ago, I prayed about getting a dog or not. It might seem minute, but that was a prayer that we had. I was in the parking lot in Winston-Salem saying, Lord, is this going to add stress to the family? Are we ready for this?
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought you were asking. I'm sorry. I thought you were asking.
And that's probably how he answered too. Yes, it will. So we did, you know? But I'm a broken record, and I recognize that because you know, I don't downplay the realities and the seriousness around stress and things of that nature. But I know the antidote that works for me is the Word of God.
Yep.
For me, at least.
And I just want to affirm you because I've known you over 30 years. And where you were 10 years ago and where you are today is completely night and day. And so as a man, like, I recognize that. And you're winning. Like, every day you live that out to the fullest. Like, you always bring it back to the scriptures. And like, that's where it's at. Like, dude told us from jump, like, this is how you win.
Yeah.
And you're winning, my brother. So,
It's a
keep
peace.
doing what you're doing.
It's a peace that passes all understanding.
Yeah.
And sometimes having that and being like we also, I mean, being rooted in that faith, it doesn't make sense. Well, you know, you have people that are like, I got no stress. They're lying, first off. Second off, they're handling it very well. Whatever it is, marriage, kids, money, job, whatever it is. It's like, oh, well. Yeah. And I said it on here before, and then I'm done, Matt. Sorry, I know we're going to over, but is a message from pastor probably a year and a half or 2 years ago. He's like, look, good things and bad things are going to happen. And he said the analogy, I could walk out here in the parking lot and somebody could slice all 4 of my tires. Am I going to be upset? Yes. Is it going to take my joy? No.
Yeah.
It sucks. It's not going to make me feel good, and I'm going to have to figure it all out. But if I let that take my joy, then I've already lost that battle. So I think that's the biggest thing is trying to, you know, and bringing this back to being a dad is, you know, last game of the season, last night, lost by 35. 35. Coaching.
Sound like the heels tonight.
That's exactly what I was doing.
Right.
Matter of fact, I'm going to take off this shirt real quick.
But coaching and discipline. So trying to tell my 15-year-old who is super hard on himself that, bro, it wasn't on you. It's just a game. It's just a Chromebook. And hey, if you let a loss or you let the coach this or the kid that take what's inside of you that you have, you're a great student, all these things, like, we got to work on that piece, that you've got to have that joy in there. And that's tough to obviously portray and pass on, but it's our job.
So I'll say a couple of things, and then Jason, we're going to come to you and let you close it out. Right. So for me personally, my wife will tell you she is, and this is true. She'll tell you right to your face. She's seen me mad in our marriage. We've been together 31 years, been together 34 years total, 30 coming on 35. She's seen me mad less than you could count on this one hand. I just handle stress. I keep it low and all that. And, you know, to me, I don't know. It's just something that I do. I don't let things overwhelm me. Things are stressful. They don't overwhelm me because I find a way to deal with it. Because I know what I find as a counselor is that people let this stress ball them up and they let it control their lives, and they live in their past. They live in their trauma. They live in everything that's going on. And stress, you can take care of it and you can move forward. You can find ways to cope with it. You can find ways to move forward. I know if I'm having a bad day today, tomorrow's a new day. I get to start over, right? And it goes back to Eric, what you're saying. You know, I trust so much in God and you know, my beliefs that I know that I'm moving past it. Yeah, everybody's going to have a bad day. Everybody's going to have bad times. Everybody's going to have moments that are stressful. I find ways to just cope with them and move forward, you know, and maybe that's not a great thing. So maybe I need to stress a little bit more sometimes, you know, but I think that everyone, you find your ways to stress, you find your ways to, you know, to deal with that. And that's the key, is to not let it overwhelm you. I watch so many people just let the stress overwhelm them. And they live in it. They live in that stress. They live in that trauma, and they can't think about tomorrow. Y'all have heard me say it before. Denzel Washington gave that great commencement speech where he talks about falling forward. You got to learn how to fall forward. If you're falling backwards every day, then you can't get past it. And that's that stress and anxiety that can build up in you and just overwhelm you. And then you start turning to the alcohol. You start turning to the other coping mechanisms.
Coping mechanism. I will say one thing for people that are on here. Matt, like I think it was Dion said in one of his interviews, he's like, it's like a temperature gauge. He's like, look, I may have a bad situation, I may have a bad hour, but you ain't never gonna find me having a bad day.
That's
It's
it.
a bad
That's
hour.
what-
It's a bad situation. It's a bad. He's like, but you will never hear me say I had a bad day. There's 24 hours in a day. And
That's
all
my-
of these things happen. Yeah, my temperature may go down, it may go up, but you're never going to find me having a bad day.
That's it. I mean, that's it. You know, it's one of those things that I honestly feel like that. You're gonna have life. Life is not, Jason. We talked about it yesterday. Life is not this straight line where we have this beautiful straight line to God and to heaven. It's that cartoon where it's like this and not like this. That's just life. It is life. I'm sorry, but just take it moment by moment, day by day. But I believe in what you just said. I might have a bad moment, but I'm not going to have a bad day.
Bad
And
day.
I'm not going to wake up tomorrow thinking about it again. I'm going to have a solution already in the works if I'm having a problem. You know,
I'm gonna be up at 2:00 in the morning breathing because Jason told me to.
when I got the phone call, and then I'm gonna give it to Jason. When I got the phone call, when I thought it was my boss calling me to tell me because he had some health issues, and I thought with his heart, and I thought he was calling to tell me that he was losing his FA medical. I answer the phone. I'm on a convened meeting. I step away, and he goes, "Hey, Matt." I'm like, "Hey, sir, how you doing?" And he goes, "Well, I've had better days." And the next thing I think is coming out of his mouth, because I'm supposed to take the helicopter to Bristol that weekend for the first Bristol race, NASCAR race of the season. You know, we're back on. It's on, right? And he said, "I've had better days." And I was like, "Oh, okay, whatever." And he goes, "Matt, we're selling the helicopter. We're going to have to let you go." And I was like, "You said what?" And I was like, so I got off that call, and you know what I did? I went and got in my car, my 4Runner. I love my 4Runner. I rode around for an hour listening to music, Christian music, blast as loud as I could. Maybe some Eminem was mixed into there.
Right beside the Kirk Franklin.
Some Eminem. And then I came back and I said, okay, time to go. And I had a job. Within 24 hours.
Yeah.
I was going back to aeronautical. You got to go.
Yeah.
Don't let it drag you down. All right. We're past
Well,
time.
hey, just one more
Right.
thing for Jason get on. Maybe it might be helpful to somebody, may not. If you can't use it, just go ahead and flush it. But two things. The great Inky Johnson said, "Control the controllables," right?
Yeah.
And so with that, I often like to ask myself, do I have any direct influence? Do I have any direct control? If I don't, I try to flush it. I try to get rid of it.
Yeah.
And then the second part of that, I ask myself, in 5 minutes, will this really make a difference? And so those are two strategies that I also try to combine in my life just to get me through the muckety muck sometimes. Go ahead, Dr. Jason.
All right. Close us out, Jason.
Yeah, man, I think we commented on this earlier. I think people have different dispositions in how they handle stress. And I think you're at one end of the spectrum. I'm definitely at the other end, where I just have never handled stress well. I've always been really high stress, and it's easy to come up with a lot of these tools. And honestly, I'm going to go back to what, Eric's last point is, where I made the most progress is when I found God. And I'm going to be perfectly honest. Like, I started going to church late last year, and I got baptized in December, and every journaling in the morning is prayer journaling. And when I read at night, it's scripture or some related book. And if there's someone out there who's struggled and trying to figure out how to handle stress better, that is a tool. And I don't have the words for how effective it's been in helping me manage the stress in ways that I've never been able to manage. So for the first time in my life, like, I feel pretty good with how I manage stress, and that's been a big part.
Amen. I'm glad you closed it out with that, because we talked about it yesterday.
That's what's up right there.
That is it. That's the way to close it out tonight. I love that. All right. Hey, let's come back. We're going to do it again. Thanks for being on, Jason. And y'all are going to keep seeing Jason as a regular. He's going to keep coming on. Keep talking about some of these topics, and let's make a difference. And it's God. Keep believing. All right. Have a good night.
Love you, dudes.
Later.
Later.